Okay, thanks everyone for joining today. I'm Mike Schrobo, Head of Marketing at Bitcoin IRA, and I'll be your host. For those that don't know, we are a platform to help you buy and sell Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies inside your retirement account. Today's webinar is exciting, but also different than previous ones we've done, as we'll be showing off never before seen data. We'll introduce you to some new products, and we'll talk about market trends, including what just happened with the halving. This webinar should only take about 25 minutes with a Q&A at the end. There's also a special discount if you stay till the very end. You'll see that code there. If you have any questions, simply ask them in the comment box below, and we'll try to answer them in real time. If we don't get to them, we'll be sure to email you after the event. You can also call us at any point, and I'm providing that number now in the box below. Lastly, as a reminder, please don't look at this webinar as financial advice. We're here to simply educate you on what's happening in the crypto space so you can make your own informed investment decisions. With that, I'd like to introduce you to our guests today. At first, we have Chris Klein. He's our COO and co-founder. And we also have Diego Vinales. He's one of our senior VPs. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us. A lot of buzz going on around Bitcoin, and we're excited to share some really interesting things.
Thank you, Mike.
So with that, we'll go ahead and jump into the first thing that's on everybody's mind, and that's the halving. It just happened on Monday. It was a big event for crypto. And here's a chart we'd like to share first. Chris, why don't you walk us through what you're seeing here?
Yeah, first, I'd like to point out that this is a Bloomberg chart. So the fact that mainstream financial media is displaying things about halving and its effects on pricing and such really shows that mainstream is starting to catch on further with what's happening in Bitcoin. The unique thing here that we're trying to show and that Bloomberg's really trying to show is the drastic increases in pricing after each halving that takes place. And so we just had our most recent one, our third one, and the original ones, if you look here on the chart, it's pretty straightforward that there's what happens with halving is it decreases the reward that is paid out to the miner for the generation of said Bitcoin. It's basically a tool to stop inflation inside of Bitcoin and control it. And what happens when you reduce that supply while demand is peaking because of buzzworthiness and the concept of Bitcoin, you get these drastic runs that you see in those two I bars that are sitting there.
Yeah, this first one was about 8,000% gain, and it was about a year from the time the halving happened to whenever the peak happened.
Yep.
And then the most recent, not the most recent one, the second one was a 2,000% gain, and that took about a year and a half. We just had the third one. There's obviously no guarantee this is going to increase again, but as Chris mentioned, the supply gets cut. Certainly it puts upward pressure on the price.
And this is happening in tandem with another major thing happening in our economy. So that makes Bitcoin, what drives this halving and the process is what creates the diminishing rate of return and makes a fixed supply of Bitcoin. 21 million Bitcoin will be mined in the history of our time. In contrast, you talk about something that has an unlimited supply, which is the US dollar. Already, we all know that the largest debt ratios, largest national debt per user in general, and all driven by an unlimited monetary supply of the US dollar to feed this beast. So when you have centralization choosing, we're gonna bail out $3 trillion through this coronavirus epidemic that's happening or pandemic that's happening, while conversely, Bitcoin is taking a measure to drive its supply into a fixed component, you're seeing the effects of what's inside the code. So really big contrast between two things that we call money and may drive us towards a new definition of what is money and what is real value.
And we're already starting to see the effects of that. Even though we're in the middle of a pandemic, the ROI is looking pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you put the two together, you've got what's happening economically, and the Bitcoin lives inside that ecosystem, and then Bitcoin itself and how the code works to make it an efficient terms of money. You see now these great returns, 92% last year, outbeating everything by almost 3x. And then this year already, it's May, and we're sitting at almost 40% return this year. So the numbers speak for themselves when you get to this point.
Yeah, I think most people don't even realize this. They don't pay attention to Bitcoin like we do, and they don't see that these numbers are huge. The gains over the last 5 years, Bitcoin's easily the best performing asset. Last year, the best performing. This year, it's the best performing. Like, this is a repeated pattern that people don't recognize, and I think it's important to showcase here.
Well, that's because the only time it ever makes CNBC is when it has a flash crash of $1,000.
Right, exactly. But if you ignore the crashes and the dips, overall, in the long term, this thing is really performing.
Gradual, successful growth. Yep.
The next few slides here, I do want to show a little bit more about the growth. This one's really interesting. This is the price of Bitcoin is this gray line here. You can see the recent dip we had because of the pandemic. And this orange line is the amount of wallets of Bitcoin holders with more than $100. The good thing about the blockchain is it's fully transparent. You can actually see how much Bitcoin is in each wallet. And as you can see, the opposite effect is happening. As we're dipping in the market, you're seeing an increase in people buying, or at least more wallets that are occurring as a result. This is a sign of adoption, and I'll show you some more in the next few slides, but it really runs counter to what's happening on the price, and I think it's important that we talk about it. This is the number of transactions per day. It's certainly volatile, but the overall upward trajectory as we head into this year is on a very steep upward trend. Moving on, a lot of people talk about hash rates. You may have heard that before. This is related to Bitcoin security. Related to the halvening, the hash rate might dip slightly. It just basically means that less miners are online. However, you can see the trend once again, it's very strong. Even with a small dip, it's only going to be temporary. A lot of people expect that to rebound very quickly and continue on the same path. In terms of trading volumes, again, people that aren't that close to cryptocurrencies don't understand this is a global asset that trades huge amounts every day. You can see here the spot market, which is your basic cash exchange they're using, like a Coinbase. It trades 1.5 trillion trades a month.
That's with a T, right, Mike?
That's with a T, exactly right. The derivatives markets are like futures and options markets. Those are relatively new. You can see that as the blue mark there. However, they're really gaining a lot of attention lately. A lot of institutions use the derivative markets instead of trading on the spot market because they're more regulated. Here's another example of the futures markets. This is just the last, say, 5 or 6 months. You can tell these big spikes here. Just in the last week or two, we hit almost 40 billion in trades on a single day in the futures markets. And again, these are largely bigger institutions because there's big minimums, so typically say 100,000 minimum to get in. So what's the big catalyst? Now that the halvening is over, what are the things we need to be looking for this year that could drive the price higher? There's really 3 things and a couple other things here. I wanted to share Ethereum 2.0. So Ethereum is the second biggest cryptocurrency on the market today. They are currently Ethereum 1.0. It's become the backbone for a lot of financial instruments, such as decentralized finance, ICOs, stable coins, maybe some other terms you've heard out there. It has tens of thousands of developers working on this. They're upgrading their platform to Ethereum 2.0. What's great about this is, of course, it will be faster and more secure, more private. However, staking is the big thing everybody's talking about. The expectation is this going to launch in the next few months. A lot of people are placing their bets now, and the expectation that there'll be a price increase when this does launch. Staking is basically a way for people to lock up their Ethereum and they can earn interest on it. At the beginning, people are expecting to earn about 10% interest. As the more folks that end up staking their Ethereum, it should reduce to about 5%. The good thing for our clients and our customers are that this potentially will be part of our offering in the future. Is that right, Chris? Is that what you're hearing?
Yes, actually, we're tooled up and we're ready for it. So when 2.0 does launch, because we believe it's a win, not an if, we're tooled up at the wallet support level to allow folks to enable staking, which is generating a yield. And that's about as mainstream as it gets, right? It's just like a savings account. You're getting paid back for holding on to it.
That's right. Most people are familiar with Bitcoin, but Ethereum definitely is the one to watch over the next few months. The next thing is China's digital currency. This is not an if, but this is definitely a win. Their central government has come out and said they're launching this very soon, and the most likelihood is going to be this year. They've already launched their blockchain initiative, so developers can start building applications on top of the Chinese blockchain. They've also accelerated their plans based on 2 things. One is the pandemic, and one is Facebook's Libra that they announced that last year. And China says, we want to beat them to the punch. We want to get out there before anybody else. The main thing to keep in mind here is that it is China's digital currency. However, people, by just using their currency, will get familiar with cryptocurrencies and wallets and how to use those. And the idea is that once they get comfortable in that space of digital money, they'll likely see the benefits of Bitcoin move over to those other.
Also, to add, Mike, the concept of a country, a sovereign nation using digitization or blockchain technology or whatever it may be that you want to call this uh, as a weapon with its currency, because we're always about protecting or strengthening or weakening our currencies based upon if we're an exporting country, importing country. So for them to be able to make this play, it's a good counterpunch to what the U.S. dollar has had as the basically the reserve currency for OPEC, and any oil transactions that have taken place since the 70s have happened in the U.S. dollar by standard. So this is a very interesting play as we figure out this dynamic between us and China as things progress ahead.
There's some talks about them too, as a stimulus to their citizens. They're going to provide it as this digital yuan when it launches as a way to help their economy during the pandemic. Again, it's a rumor, but still it's a really interesting application. The last thing here is Facebook's Libra, which I just mentioned. There's not a ton of details here other than just they were going to launch in June. Now they're looking to launch in November. It keeps changing what their product looks like, but Facebook has 2 billion active users, which if you look at it in terms of country size, it's like the 3rd or 4th largest country in the world. So if they launch a cryptocurrency, you would automatically have a huge user base that could get involved there. And again, once people are in the system, they learn about crypto, they'll eventually see the benefits of Bitcoin and other currencies. There's a couple other just sort of bonus items here. An ETF is kind of always hanging over this industry. It's a big product everybody's looking forward to. It's a way for people to buy and sell quickly and easily. And Bitcoin has an upgrade that's coming later this year, potentially called Taproot, a little more private than the current version and a little bit faster. So a lot of things to look out for there, but those 3 things could be big catalysts for the price. In terms of size and scope of what, how big crypto could actually get, or Bitcoin in particular, if you were to compare it to gold, which is a store of value, very similar to Bitcoin, gold's worth about $6 trillion. So Bitcoin would have to grow 42 times what it is today in terms of price to match that of gold. And so that would make each Bitcoin worth about 400,000. If you look at it compared to global currencies around the world, there still is a lot of room to grow here. And it's really early days for Bitcoin. It's still a good opportunity ahead for people that want to invest. That's it for sort of market trends. I want to move into our next section, which is about our internal data and some of the transactions on our network. Chris, I'm going to hand it over to you. Why don't you walk us through this first chart here?
Yeah, we're happy first to offer a little bit of a sneak peek. One of the unique things about our business and our platform is that we enabled clients with their retirement accounts to trade 24/7. So that is ultimate empowerment for a user of cryptocurrency with retirement monies. And as such, we try to always dissect and see what's happening and share it with folks so they can get a feel for, okay, what are other people with their retirement accounts doing with cryptocurrency? And the big thing that we've seen, especially since the beginning of this year and February, is we were hitting all-time highs as far as our buys of transaction levels, and we're projected to surpass that by quite a big chunk halfway through this month right now. And you see a pretty large tapering of liquidations, meaning people getting out of the market. So that goes to point that as far as a retail pulse that our platform works, which has got about $500 million of transactions under its belt, is saying people are that bullish sentiments all the way down to the retail level as well.
I want to point out, we don't actually have the data, the numbers on here, but the trends are accurate. We just want to keep it there hidden for privacy reasons. The trends in the data are accurate.
So too comes out with the amount of transactions. So the number of trades versus the value of trades. A very unique thing to point out was that large red chunk under sells in June of 2019. So basically last summer. This was when Bitcoin peaked back up for a while to 13,000. It was a very short-lived run. We had quite a bit of profit taking, and that's because people were getting in at levels of $3,000, $6,000, $7,000, and it was time to say, hey, I'm going to take some money off the table and I'm going to work in another fashion. What you see now happening again here later, now live in these last 2 months, is a big growth and a stable growth since even January of purchases, and a tapering of those liquidations, and might even get pretty low from what it's looking like in May comparative to even just the last 2 months. So bulls are definitely out there on our retail side. What's also unique is looking at the asset types and how they've changed over the last 4 months. Bitcoin's always kind of been reign supreme we are Bitcoin IRA after all, but we offer a lot of different other coins. I think 9 or 10 total, and we've got a few more coming that Diego will talk about later today. One big thing to notice is Litecoin saw a pretty drastic drop from January volumes at 13% of our transactions down to just over 7% in April. So, and it doesn't seem like, other than possibly the introduction of a new asset that we put to play, which was gold, which took 11%. I mean, it's got to come from somewhere. But it's unique to see that we're still running about a 60-40 altcoins or alternative asset choices versus Bitcoin, which is the first of them all.
Yeah, if you look at the market cap of these, Bitcoin has a much larger market cap. It's about 60% of the total market. So to see that our clients in particular are buying more altcoins is very interesting.
Absolutely. And probably looking for what paralleled and happened in 17. While Bitcoin kind of drove the market, everybody was talking about it late 17 and into the mania phase in the turn of the year into 18. What happened subsequently after was altcoins started to have some pretty unique runs. I know Ripple went from like 25 cents to almost $5. And those, when you look at the percentage change and the ability to make an additional gain, that's probably what people are looking for. Is they got their quote unquote stable coin of Bitcoin that they want to have as that kind of the reserve of their portfolio. And let's dabble in some of these others and see how they do. Something else that's unique, as I said, with the 24/7 trading is that when there's no limitation, people can trade at 1 a.m., Saturdays, Sundays, everywhere in between. What was unique for us as we started watching the data specifically this year on trends as far as when they're buying is based on our time, which we're out here in California in Sherman Oaks as PST, that you see that during the business day from about 4 to about 2, it's relatively quiet. And we haven't seen a big shift of that with the emergence of remote workers. And we see a really heavy growth of transactions into the later hours. So while the stock boys and all of the traditional assets are calling it a day, Bitcoin's just gearing up.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't expect that when I first saw it, but it makes a lot of sense after you described it. With that, thanks, Chris, for all the information there. I'm going to hand it over to Diego to sort of walk us through some of our brand new products that we're launching. Diego, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. So a lot of cool stuff here on our platform. We've come a long way. We've been the innovators of the space. We are considered the pioneers, the first ones to market, and we account for, hard to put a number on, but most IRAs that are invested in cryptocurrencies here in the US. And with that, of course, we're on our 10th version versus some other platforms that are out there that are still struggling to set up their first, second, or maybe third version. So we've done, like Chris mentioned earlier, almost $500 million in transactions. We have over 50,000 accounts worldwide. We've introduced a 24/7 online trader for our clients. We have an average of about 45,000 per account here open. And of course, proof of all that hard work comes from almost a 5-star review average from all of our existing clients.
We got some raging fans out there, don't we, Diego?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And a lot of them have done very well with us as well. So here's a few. It's actually a 4.6 to be precise average in the Google reviews. Now, as far as the security protocols, which if you're new to cryptocurrency, just know that that is usually the number one asked question from those who are coming into our platform. They want to know the security. They want to know what we're doing. They want to know how we differentiate ourselves from anybody out there, a Coinbase, a Gemini, or any of these Hong Kong or China, South Korea exchanges, right? So we partner up with BitGo. For those who don't know who BitGo is, they account for 20% on average on the global Bitcoin transaction on a monthly basis. They're also a California tech company by nature like us. Very good company to work with. So they're under our umbrella. By using them as our custodian and as our cold storage wallets, we get $100 million of custody insurance We have the best partnerships, best reporting, and again, I can't stress enough on the security protocols that they bring to the table. With that, we've obviously been featured in many very reputable media outlets, including CNBC, Wall Street Journal, Forbes magazine, and you can find a lot of that on our website for you to check out.
Forbes was pretty awesome, wasn't it, Diego?
It was, and
cool.
Shout out to Chris. He's been on CNBC multiple times, speaking live on national television too, and that obviously has raised a lot of eyebrows because when they're calling us to CNBC as industry experts, I think it says a lot about what we do here and a lot about what we offer and a lot about the reputation we have out there on the street. Now, the process is very simple. So if you have an existing IRA, you would just go on a platform, very streamlined process, and we would assist you. We do most of the legwork to get the funds here. Once the funds are here, we have a 24/7 online trade.
Yep, and the trader helps drive clients the ability to trade as they need to at their discretion. And as Diego was saying, the legwork is really done by our team of experts. We've been moving funds between retirement accounts for probably well over a decade now in different asset classes. And so we know the ins and outs. And as you would be not surprised, the banks move funds pretty slowly. So that's why our turnkey solution really helps make it simple for folks.
Yes, it does. So this is kind of a recap. We have the 24/7 online trader. The online application process is very easy. You can do it from a handheld device and, of course, from any kind of desktop or laptop. Should only take about 5 minutes. We are launching, and this is something that we've had enormous interest in, an interest-bearing program, which was supposed to go live, I believe, end of Q1, but COVID-19 hit and it made things a little bit slower, but it's still on track to be launched here, hopefully by the end of the quarter. And that we're shooting to yield APY anywhere between 1% and 3%, depending on the cryptocurrency, which will be paid monthly. It's a great program.
And in kind. So you can put your Bitcoin to work just like your Ethereum and staking and earn more Bitcoin.
That's right. I'm excited myself for that program. Then we always have special offers going. You guys are welcome to just look at our emails, and depending on what the market's doing, depending on what's trending, we're always updating these things. As far as billing and statement, that is something that we have live, monthly statements, and you can always request those as well. So one of our cool new products actually is the Saver IRA. We've had a lot of clients from the get-go who want to do business with us and haven't been able to do this in the past because we did have at that point in time higher minimums. But we obviously felt bad, and we want to not exclude anybody from our platform and anybody from making money in the retirement account. So we launched Saver IRA, which you can do as little as $100 a month, and it's a program that's extremely easy to sign up for. You can just link it to your bank account, and every month, whatever predetermined amount of money is going to be sent from your checkings account to your IRA with us. And it's very surprising how much, without even realizing it, if you invest $100, $200, $300 a month with the appreciation of Bitcoin and with the scale of coming in every month with a certain amount of money, you can save for retirement in a very good way.
It's crazy. If you would have done, I think it's $250 for the last 5 years every month, you would have about $150,000, $160,000 today. And there's probably nothing else I could imagine, Diego, that I would have put aside that kind of money and made a return. I mean, you're an MBA in a financial background. I don't think in our lifetime we've seen something like that.
I mean, you would have to gotten extremely lucky. Maybe if you bought Amazon or Apple before it went public and never sold it, and maybe you can see the type of returns. But I don't even think that.
Yeah.
And this is an opportunity that I believe we're still, if we're in a baseball game in the first or second inning. This is a new asset class. It's just now seeing major adoption, and it's still a very good time to invest and get in and still see those multiples that a lot of our clients have already seen.
Yep.
Now, one more product that we launched actually a few months ago, and this was actually a perfect timing given what Chris discussed earlier about COVID-19 and the terrible monetary policy of printing trillions of dollars within a month. We've gotten so much demand for gold that we decided to take matter into our own hands and add that to our platform. And like Chris explained earlier, I believe it's our third or fourth most popular asset right now, given that you're still seeing really good returns on it, and it's not as volatile as the stock market or as cryptocurrencies, and it's a really good way to preserve your wealth and have something that's not tied to the dollar, that doesn't have that inflationary aspect to it, and that is considered a safe haven. So being able to do that in your retirement account, we created something that you can go with a click of a mouse from Bitcoin or Ethereum to gold and vice versa. So you don't even have to go to dollars, which is what a lot of our clients are trying to avoid.
Yep, absolutely. I called it liquefying gold because gold's out there, and it's been in play for a long time in retirement settings, but it's a process to it: shipping, insurance, storage. I mean, there's a lot to it, and that makes you not as nimble as an investor. So we wanted to make it so that, like you said, Diego, hey, I'm going to sell some of my Bitcoin. I don't want to go to US dollar. I'm going to go straight into gold, and then maybe 2 weeks down the road, Bitcoin starts to do a little bit of action, and you said, you know what, I'm going to flip it right back over, and you don't have to deal with days and weeks because that'll lose you the trade.
Completely agree.
And I mean, the returns speak for themselves. You know, we were getting such a influx of people that were saying, hey, I'm looking for another asset, and gold is one of those that I'm eyeballing. Our clients must have known something was happening. Obviously, in 2019, it was in the top 6, top 5 as far as performers. And now it's really creeped up to the third most top performer for 2020. And it looks like it's probably going to have a pretty strong rest of the year as far as sentiment with everything happening in the marketplace today.
So how to get started? Very simple. Like I mentioned earlier, you can go do it on a handheld device. You can do it on a computer. It should only take a few minutes. You create an account, and you just enter all your personal information. And if you're bringing in from another IRA, the information of Fidelity, Vanguard, wherever that IRA is. If you're bringing it from a bank, you do that. And once the funds are here, you can go ahead and take your retirement into your own hands and start trading.
Thanks, Diego. Appreciate that. This wraps it up for the presentation. I saw some questions that were coming in along the way. We tried to answer most of them. However, I do have some general ones I just want to cover here during the webinar. And then we'll go over any final ones as we start to wrap up. So why don't I start with this first one here. We've pre-planned this just based on a lot of customers asking questions from previous webinars. So let's jump into it. Chris, which retirement accounts are eligible to be rolled over into a Bitcoin IRA?
Pretty much everything that's out there. So you have the most popular are the traditional or the Roth IRA that folks have that are IRAs that can transfer account to account very smoothly. Also, a lot of folks have either 401ks or other versions like 457s, 403bs. Those are employer-sponsored plans. And if you are eligible, which means you have either left service, meaning you're not working at the place that was contributing, or you've reached the age of 59 and a half, you can roll that over into a Bitcoin IRA as well. And there's a couple other specialty accounts. If you're a government worker or you're a proud military member, you might have a TSP, those as well. So call us and we'll probably figure out a way to get that money into a Bitcoin IRA for you if it's in a retirement account.
Excellent, thanks. Diego, I'm going to hand this next one to you. Let's say I bought some cryptocurrency on Coinbase or Kraken or another exchange. Can I just transfer my Bitcoin into a Bitcoin IRA?
Unfortunately, you can't. But that does not only apply to cryptocurrencies. It actually applies to any asset class: securities, stocks, mutual funds, real estate, gold. In essence, it will be a way to avoid paying taxes. So obviously the government has strict rules where the only thing you can actually put inside of a retirement account is US dollars, right?
Yep, when you're contributing it, yep.
When you're contributing into it, that is correct, right? So you would actually have to transfer funds from another IRA, You wouldn't be able to transfer funds or start an IRA, but you wouldn't be able to transfer funds or, excuse me, cryptos from a third-party wallet that's not in an IRA to us.
Okay, excellent, thanks. And the last two are also for you, Diego. I'm going to start with investment limits. You mentioned Saver IRA. I think you said $100. How does that work, and what are the limits for like caps?
Yeah, so the Saver IRA is very simple. Like I mentioned earlier, we're trying to democratize investing and not leave anybody out. So I believe the limit there, or the minimum, excuse me, is $100 per month. So it opens the door to a lot of individuals who don't have retirement accounts and want to just start on a monthly basis without even hurting their wallet. And they just don't even realize that's happening, right? That is one of our programs. Now, our traditional program, we call it our Prime accounts. Those have a little higher minimum. It's actually $3,000 to get started. And you can either fund that with a contribution, which is $6,000 or $7,000 per year, depending on the age, or you can obviously transfer funds from another retirement account. Now, what we've seen though, since we launched Saver, is we have a combination of both. We have clients who might only have $1,000 in an IRA, but they want to send that $1,000 and keep on contributing $300 a month. So
yeah, the jump starts, as we call them. They get jump started and then they build up over time because they're excited to get into the market now with some more.
That's right.
And then the last question, of course, most importantly, is what are our fees?
So the fee structure here is very simple. I mentioned our partners earlier, BitGo Trust, great company to work with. They have very minimal maintenance fees. They have a $240 annual account fee. And then they have a maintenance of 60 basis points per year. Basis point is a percent of a percent. So 60 basis points is just over 0.5% a year. And that will cover them sending the tax forms to the regulators, staying compliant with the IRS, everything that's covered with having custody and being a trust for IRAs. Beyond that, then Bitcoin IRA, our company here, has a setup fee. And that setup fee usually depends on the amount of the investment. Usually any amount below $50,000, we have a one-time setup fee at 12.5%, 50 to 100 would be at 10%, and $100,000 plus will be 7.5%. Now that fee, I cannot stress, most of it goes to the security protocol, setting up the wallets, getting the keys to cold storage, setting up the account, all the intellectual human capital comes with that, includes getting you into the market as well. And a really cool thing is on the sell side, so if we see this have the effect that we've had it seen in the last 2 times it's happened, and your account grows 1, 2, 3, 500%, or whatever the case may be, there's only a 1% liquidation fee on the Bitcoin IRA side. So you get to keep most of your profits. That's it.
I think it's also important to add that the most people look at their investment in alternative assets, especially the retirement, as like a 3 to 5 year holding period. And so when you take and you amortize that fee across those years, it really gets about to the same as any investment hedge fund or otherwise that you're paying 2 and 20 or something like that with. Plus, as Diego was talking about earlier, we're beta testing earn interest as well as staking. The yields of 1 to 3% are going to offset that. Our goal being pioneers was to build a free account over time where people get paid to be invested in crypto as opposed to pay for it.
Also mentioned that we have discounts on occasion. In fact, the very next slide here is a coupon code that you could use, or you could just mention it on the phone and we'll give you a discount on those fees. A couple other extra questions here for you guys and then we'll wrap it up. I see one or a couple about offering other coins in the future. Chris, maybe you can chime in on any new coins we might have coming.
Yeah, so we are working. It's always a process. You got to get wallet support, liquidity support, and protocol support, and so that takes a lot of entities to get it to happen. What's nice is we are looking right now as far as possible Q2 or early Q3 deployments of either BAT and Link or Chainlink, both really unique assets that are out there. And I think you're going to see a floodgates of more of those to come as groups just get more comfortable. It's been a very interesting time in crypto. And the biggest thing you want to do is make sure that if a client's going to put an asset in their retirement account, that you want to make sure liquidity maintains. So you don't want to sell something to somebody that doesn't necessarily be able to get liquidated easily down the road. So it's all about these assets earning their I guess their stripes, as many would call it in the military.
Sure. Makes sense. Thanks. I see a gentleman here named John is from Hawaii. He's asking, can he use our platform? It looks like Coinbase he cannot use. Maybe there's some restrictions there. Are we able to help people in Hawaii?
Yes, we are. Absolutely. I know that Hawaii has some restrictions on Coinbase usage, but for retirement accounts, because of the way that the program's set up, you have a custody solution, just like any other IRA setting. Somebody else is holding the asset on your behalf. So we have lots of Hawaii clients. I think, Diego, you even have quite a few of them as well.
Yes, I do.
And then let's see here. Let's grab one more. Diego, this one's going to be for you. It looks like it's about gold prices. He's asking what we're selling the gold at. And I believe his question is based on the fact that there's shortages of gold around the U.S. or around the world, and the prices are trading for premiums. What are we charging here per ounce?
That's a really good question, actually. What we created is a product that actually trades extremely close to the price or the spot price of gold. And correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, is it a 1% range or?
Yes, perhaps even tighter than 100 basis points. And even in these limited supplies, that's kind of the nice part of having a blockchain component driving the settlements, transparency, and inventory, is that some gold and silver products are running direct from mints and wholesalers at 5 to, I think, like Silver Eagles are like 14% above spot right now. Clients that are working with our gold program don't have that to worry about.
Okay, that is it. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Diego, for joining. I really appreciate your time, and for everybody else for participating. It's been a great webinar. As I mentioned, there's a discount code. It's not terribly creative, but if you just say webinar, call this phone number. You can also transfer your funds and enter webinar into our system before you self-trade. But calling is probably the best way. I'll also put a URL here in the box. And I want to let people know that if you want updates on cryptocurrency, price alerts, information, we have a great email newsletter. Please, please, please just go to our homepage. Scroll down to the very bottom, you'll see an email newsletter. Went there, you can just subscribe for free. We provide really frequent and detailed information. We curate it from the web. So it's
the weekly
useful.
Rehash is great, Mike. It's one of my favorite readings every Friday, and I know our viewers really like to read it as well. It's just a good it's hard to find crypto news, and it's a great place to put it all in one spot for a kind of aggregation source. So I highly recommend subscribing for that.
Thanks, Chris. We try to provide balanced news. Some sites just provide only positive or only negative. So please sign up for that. And with that, I just want to say have a great evening. Thank you so much. Please contact Diego or anybody else on our team if you have any follow-up questions. Thanks again. Have a great night.